Welcome to Bible Logos. I'm Tiandra Rowden, and I am your broadcast host. Today I'm excited to bring part 4 of a message called God is not a respecter of persons, but God is a respecter of faith. Please do me a favor and share this message on social media with family and friends. All right, let's get to the word. Here is part 4 of God is not a respecter of persons, but God is a respecter of faith.
The second one is this. God is not a respecter of persons, but God is a respecter of faith. It is just easier to bless the folk who will obey his word. Now remember the first one. The first one is that it is easier to bless the folk who will believe his word. The second one is that it is easier to bless the folk who will obey his word. Obedience precedes the blessing. Obedience always comes before the blessing. Read it in your scriptures. God tells them to do something. As long as they don't do it, God is waiting. When they do it, then God blesses. Obedience always precedes the blessing. Over in Genesis, the 18th chapter, verses 17 through 19 from the King James Version of the Bible, the scripture says, "And the Lord said, shall I hide from Abraham the thing which I do, seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him." So God is talking to himself. You got the three parts of the Godhead having a meeting. I'm not going to keep Abraham out of this. I'm going to let him in on this because he's going to be a great nation. Now, incidentally, just for context, this is when God was getting ready to go and destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. Verse 19 says, "For I know him." This is the part I love. This is the revelation right here. "For I know him that he will command his children and his household after him, and they shall keep the way of the Lord." See it? They shall keep the way of the Lord to do justice and judgment, that the Lord may bring on Abraham that which he spoke to him. See it there? He will obey my word. He will command his children to obey my word. And because he will do that, then I can do what I told him I would do. I wanted to know, because this was important to me when I was studying the word back in the day, because what is this? My question was, why did God choose Abraham? What was it specifically about Abraham? Because when you study Abraham, he wasn't perfect. Right? Abraham was a liar. That ain't my wife, that's my sister. Abraham was selfish. We're going to do it this way so they can kill you and spare my life. That's what he told her. Abraham had ups and downs. Some days he was strong in faith. Other days, I don't know where you are, God, and I'm sick of you, and I'm tired of waiting on this promise. Abraham was human, just like you and I are. But look what the revelation that God gives us in this scripture. God said, he gonna do this thing. He says, I know him. He will command his children, his household after him. See, some of us, we just getting it for us. We're going to let the children make their own decisions. I just want to raise them up where they can make their own choices. And they can decide themselves if they're going to serve the Lord or not. Well, see, if you don't tell them to do it, the teachers at school going to tell them not to do it.
Amen. Amen.
Who's going to speak up for the Lord? If you think you're going to let them make their own decision, who's going to stand on behalf of God? There's no one to be the voice of God in their lives other than you. God said the thing about Abraham is he's going to command his children. Do you remember when Abraham got circumcised? Everybody got circumcised. Do you think everybody wanted to be circumcised? Abraham said everybody in this house is going to be circumcised. All of them. God said, Abraham, will command, he's going to honor me, and he's going to require honor of everybody who comes in contact with him. He will obey. He will keep the commandments of the Lord. But see, with some of us, God got to wrestle with us. Look at somebody say, it's just easier to bless some folks. God has to spend all his time telling us to forgive somebody who offended us. God has to spend all his time telling us to walk in love. God has to spend all his time telling us to love our neighbor as ourselves. God has to spend all his time telling us how to have a relationship with each other. God has to spend all of his time telling us to walk by faith and not by sight. God has to spend all of his time telling us to keep his commandments. Come out of adultery. Come out of fornication. Come out of sin. Stop running around with folk you ain't got no business running around with. God has to spend all of his time chastising us and trying to goad us into doing what's right. And so there's no time left for him to bless us. Because obedience precedes the blessing. So if God got to spend so much time upholding you and strengthening you and getting you up and picking you up and dealing with your attitude and dealing with your problems and dealing with your issues, there's no time left for your blessing.
Welcome back. You don't want to miss the conclusion of tomorrow's message. God is not a respecter of persons, but God is a respecter of faith. Please don't forget to like and share this message with family and friends. My name is Tiandra Rowden, and I want you to remember that the sower sows the word, and therefore it is with the same measure that you meet that it shall be measured to you again.